Are you ready for a shift? Are you ready for real change? Well, if so, it's time for the Ready to Live show with your hosts, Dr. John E. Guns and success coach A.D. Roberts.
Hello, and welcome to the Ready to Live.
Did you say work?
I know, right?
It's not the,
That is a government program.
I know nothing of them. So
I know nothing of the program, but I've heard of it. Ready to work.
Right. Well, we're ready to live, and we hope that you're ready to live too. And
because you're ready to live, you're ready to work. That's how you connect it.
Well, what about the retirees?
Ready to go do nothing but sit around the house.
Sit around the house like my mother. She just chill and meet with her friends and carry on.
Right.
That's fine.
Can carry on.
That's fine.
Bang shenanigans. Foolishness.
Well,
amen.
This is part two.
Part two of last week.
This is part two of last week. You know, if you've not listened to the last episode that we have, you really need to check it out. It's a great episode because we tackled, the power of perspective and shifting. And many times you already have everything that you need right in front of you in your space, but because of where your focus is, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need certain words and certain encouragement and all that kind of stuff to pull you into the right alignment with the proper perspective, and out of that perspective comes an amazing opportunity.
Show over.
Really? That was the last show.
Show over.
No, Doc.
Yeesh.
But I mean, you brought up some good points, man. You brought up some good points last week, and I definitely want us to continue that.
It's interesting, man. We were talking. You don't really want to know what we talked about before this.
No.
But it's interesting, man. And since last week, I've had some real intense things happen. And the most intense thing that's happened for me is I've really made a decision that I'm going to embrace this idea of expansion. Like expansion in a very real, meaningful, concrete way. And the kind of expansion that's going to secure my future. Other thing I've decided is that I'm going to trust the process of exit. That as I start to look at the rest of my life, I have to put some very obvious measurements, boundaries of time. And I have to begin to say, by age 65, I got to transition out of being the pastor of St. Paul. Because there's some other things I want to do, but I don't want to be the obstruction to somebody else's purpose and destiny.
Wow.
So I think one of the challenges for most of us, and this was really what really messed me up, is I don't want my insecurity or my need to become the block or the blockage or the obstruction to somebody else's place and purpose.
There's a season, it was interesting. Many times, luminaries, how can I put this? You know how you got the boxer in the ring, and that boxer is long past his season.
Yeah, we've seen it 100 times.
Right, long past his season, and everybody's like, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? But there's something, that thing in you that drove you as a young man will still drive you as an old one.
But it will kill you.
How how do you manage that, and you put that in perspective? Especially how do you stay so focused on preparing for a future that's so far away, especially in a present moment like this, where people all around are just struggling for today, and they're struggling for today.
I think that's and even though it was really crazy, and that's such an amazing question. I think the thing is that you got to find a way to disconnect from your present while still maintaining your present as necessity, so you don't jack up your future. You got to find a way to kind of see down there, but know that if I don't handle this, there ain't no down there.
And there's a certain amount, and in order to project off into the future like that, there has to be a certain level amount of faith that you have in this present moment situation.
Absolutely.
Because, I'm not saying you're ignoring the present moment situation, but that's not where your focus is.
Man, since you have been asked to get a doctorate degree from a seminary, I officially consider you to be a theological compadre. So
that yes.
So
no.
So the story about the servants who were given the coins and told to go invest them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the master comes back and the master says, give me a count of the coins. And so the first one says, I took your 1 coin you gave me and I turned it into 10. And the master in turn says,
you've been faithful.
You've been faithful over the present.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say it's few things as if to denote the amount. No, I believe now, after years of looking at that text, that it really means you've been faithful over the present.
Meaning as in the present moment,
as
or
in
the present as a gift? Or both?
The present moment.
Okay.
But the present moment becomes a present for the future. Because then he gives him something that he did not promise him, but he did affirm through the man's commitment that the man merited it. So he says, you've been faithful to a few things, so now let me make you ruler over many, and I'm going to give you 10 cities. So the man goes from 1 coin to 10 cities.
Now that's growth. Now that's, using your word, that's expansion.
That's expansion.
But it's only because he managed that present moment.
Absolutely, and that's the point. And so most of us, here's what's deep. Most of us don't have a vision for our present moment. So we don't have any projection for our future. So
I need you to get your life together and find you need a present moment. Hopefully you're having a present moment revelation.
Right.
Hey. Oh
right.
Man.
If you don't have a vision in your present, you're not going to have a future to even ascribe to. And so most people are just kind of trying to get through the next day or get through the day, right? Get to bed, so they can get up and get through the day. And the problem is that eventually the day is going to turn to night.
Wow.
And you have accomplished nothing but gotten through another day.
And all the while, you've had the same 24 hours in a day that everybody else around you has had.
Yep.
You as long as you, as one of my friends says, as long as you're green side up, and there's always opportunity. As long as you have breath in your lungs, there's always opportunity to make a shift and change. You're never too old to take advantage of opportunities or to create opportunities. And your power from, based on what you're saying, your power is right now. Your power is not tomorrow. Your power is not next year. The quality of your life. One of the things I used to read out of one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich, Black Choice, there was a segment in there that said, the quality of my future me rests and depends upon the choices that I make right now in this moment. And so, so there again, that power of perspective and that power of focus, where obviously that servant was focusing on that moment and what he had in his hand.
Yeah.
Not what he was trying to create, but because he managed so well that moment, that one particular talent, that one coin, he didn't place it in the ground. He didn't do like the other. He took a risk. And see, that's another variable in there. Because he took the risk, because there was a possibility of loss, but he was honored in his diligence to grow that coin.
That is so big, man. You got me scratching my head, because we always look at those Bible verses like that, and we never acknowledge the fact that there was the potential for loss.
That was a huge, but see, that was the
evidence
motivation
of that.
The evidence was the last
guy.
servant. Yeah, because what did he do? He buried his coin in the ground.
You know, it's interesting for those who are listening to us. I think there are three things happening, because I started thinking about, what is it about a person who makes them live like this? Live in this, I believe that things can be better posture. And I think that you said two of them. The most obvious one you said is that they willingly take risk. And we're not talking about just dumb risk. We're talking about risk that has purpose attached to it.
And calculated, purposeful
risk. But the other thing is the fact that your perspective about who you are created to be causes you to fight through the process to become the person that produces.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't see me capable of doing it, then I don't even try. It is my perspective of who I am that inspires my effort.
Absolutely. We can't talk any of this stuff. Everything that we offer, everything that we put out there, there's nothing that we can talk about to empower and encourage without it always going back to the person, to me, to you, to you. It will always get back to that id. How do I see myself? Because out of that perspective, out of that will come everything. It will how I will be able to teach people how to treat me, because how I see myself.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a certain standard that I hold my life to because of how I see myself.
How I see me.
Right. There's a certain amount of risk that I'm willing to take, because I believe that I can grow something and make something happen, and it's worth it because that's how I see me.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I think this idea of how you see yourself is really predicated upon some very important factors. But one of the factors is who you connect yourself to and how much you empowered them to help shape and define who you are.
That's a whole nother topic. I'm sorry.
Next week.
That's next week. That's a whole nother. No, because when you start talking about the people that are connected to you, and you know, the matrix that begins to develop, because you have your matrix, that other person has their matrix, and if those two matrices don't come together and vibrate at the same frequency and don't sync, there is a very big disturbance. There's turbulence that comes because you're operating at two totally different frequencies, and it's hard to lock in and attract things into your space without being on the same page and same accord. That's why I would assume it said, "Be ye equally." That part right there. All right.
So next week,
I guess we're going to be incorporating how do you bring, of course, we've been talking about this power perspective and all of this kind of stuff, but at the same token, you're not an island unto yourself. You're not by yourself. We are relational people. We live in a community. We have family. We have relations. And those relations, those people that are connected to us, they're either adding to us or taking away. I saw something, and I'm gonna let you take us on out, Doc. I saw something the other day, and it really spoke to me, and it said something to the effect of, be mindful of how good you feel when you're around certain people. Just be mindful of how you feel. If you're feeling good, that's the person. That's the person, because that person feeds you. There's energy there. But when you walk away depleted and drained and all of that kind of stuff, you know.
It's interesting. There were two quotes I ran into that I integrated into my sermon last week. First quote was by Michelle Obama, where she says, "Choose people who uplift you."
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then the second quote, which was really an interesting quote, was by Oprah Winfrey, and she said, "Don't just choose people who will ride in the limo with you, but also choose people who will catch the bus with you while you're waiting for the limo to be repaired." Ready to live.
Ready to live. That's the whole goal. Ready to live. Listen, thank you guys. Listen, make sure that you subscribe, you like us here on YouTube and all of the platforms that we're broadcasting on, between Anchor and Spotify and all those great things. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and please share, because we're trying to grow and impact as many people as we possibly can. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been listening to the Ready to Live show. If you'd like to connect with Dr. Guns, visit him at bishopjohnguns.info. To connect with AD, go on over to brilliantliving.net.